I didn't like, and I'll be honest about this, the chance of Tino when Dan Burn is still on the pitch. Yes, he's made a mistake. That didn't really sit particularly well with me. Well, hello again from here inside St James's Park, and yeah, that was chaos. I'm going to try and make sense of it during this video, but I suppose the consolation for you Newcastle viewers is that you won't have to wait up as late on match of the day to see your team's highlights. On the downside, I don't think it makes for particularly pleasant viewing. Yeah, there's been one famous 4-4 victory here in the not too distant past, but I think that was a good 4-4 for Newcastle, of course, against Arsenal. I honestly believe that was a bad 4-4, and I'll explore the reasons as to why. Because you come from the game down in Aston Villa on Tuesday night, and my headline on this video was "They're back." It was the team of last season. Well, that wasn't. That was the team of 2-3 weeks ago. Against Nottingham Forest at home, the team who lost on Boxing Day. It was the team who had lost 6 out of 8 games, I think it was. And ultimately, there's a lot to pick through. And I know you guys will be wanting to know what Eddie Howe said about Dan Burn and what my thoughts are on that. We'll get to that in just a moment. But ultimately, I think Newcastle didn't win that game and lost 2 points. That was a game they should have taken 3 points from. They lost it because of the age-old problem of not being able, age-old, we'll call it season-old, not age-old, of not being able to control games. And it does come back to the midfield for me. The midfield revival has lasted one game, and on Tuesday night down at Villa Park, the midfield were excellent. Eddie Howe doesn't want to play with a 6 and doesn't think he needs to play with a 6, because when the midfield functions, it negates the need for one. That is what he's stuck through. Even during the rocky run, that was his belief. And on Tuesday night, he was totally vindicated. That was evidence of a midfield fully functioning and working. The whole team did. They were fantastic. I've made my feelings known on that. They're here today, even from the off. Even at 1-0, even at 2-1, I was saying to the guys next to me, this just isn't convincing at all. You looked at the stats, and Newcastle had at one point 67-70% possession. I don't quite know how, because it felt as if it felt as if the ball was a hot potato at times, and they didn't really know what to do with it. And it comes back to what I've said, all season at times. Newcastle just aren't really controlling games, and I think that that's on the midfield. And yes, the same midfield three are going again, game after game. And to be fair to Bruno, he never misses. I'm critical of some players who are very good players but don't play enough games. Bruno Guimaraes comes back for more week on week. Louis Miley and Sean Longstaff are doing the same at the moment. But in terms of the isolation of this performance, I thought they didn't control the game. I thought the best midfielder, arguably the best player on the park by some distance, was Ross Barkley. The game down at Kenilworth Road was almost like a Ross Barkley testimonial, a Ross Barkley benefit match. Well, you come up here today, and fair play to him, for a player whose career looked as if it had gone totally wayward in France there. He's come back. I thought he was terrific, but again, who was there in Newcastle's midfield getting about him and stopping him? Especially in the second half at times. Absolutely, he ran the game. If Newcastle had a Joe Linton in there, or even a Joe Willock, of course it's different. So they're having to go with the personnel they've got. But nonetheless, I think when you look at the reasons why Newcastle didn't win a game, they're more than capable and they should be winning. I do think it comes back to that element of control and just repeatedly giving the ball away. And yes, I do think the midfield were let down or not aided by Isak's injury, and not having that focal point. It's no coincidence that Anthony Gordon's best contribution during the game has been when he's actually pulled out to the left and he's had the run, and the shot's been blocked, and Sean Longstaff has put in with the second goal. So yeah, Gordon through the middle, I don't think it really worked. As much as he was a nuisance and he gave his all, I just think you lose so much by not having a proper centre forward. Callum Wilson comes on in the second half, and I thought he did well. I thought he got into a fight with Luton's centre half. The team had a better shape about them, but that was when they were exposed at the other end. And we've got to get to it, and it's the talking point of Dan Burn, and Eddie's just been asked about that downstairs there. Why didn't he make the substitution sooner when it was clear Ogbonna was getting the better of Dan Burn very early on? Now, Eddie said, this is his answer, he said there were other considerations. You've got a lot to think about as a manager. Luton had the aerial threat from set pieces, which was why he wanted to leave Burn on to a degree, as we saw from Luton's first goal, of course, from a set piece. Now for me, if it was me, what's my take on that? I think the need was greater to make a change than it was to leave Dan Burn on for an aerial presence. Now, On Tuesday night down at Villa Park, there was a 5 or 10 minute spell when Leon Bailey was, getting in behind Dan Burn, who had been fantastic at that point, by the way, at Villa, and Eddie reacted immediately, and Eddie won the game for his team on Tuesday by making that change, going to a back 5, bringing Tino Livramento on. I think not making the change sooner, you could argue, has cost Newcastle 2 goals. Now, what I didn't like, and I'll be honest about this, the chance of Tino when Dan Burn is still on the pitch. Yes, he's made a mistake. That didn't really sit particularly well with me. And I think, when Dan came off the pitch, I noticed where we were, there was a lot of applause around that. I think some felt a little bit, guilty, or it just felt a little bit grubby. That isn't what I would expect of a Newcastle crowd, even though that the point was valid. I've just walked for 40, 50 yards there, almost agreeing with the call. But yeah, I think someone like Dan Burn, who, listen, he made a couple of mistakes, but he has been so good for Newcastle. But today, I think he needed a little bit of help, almost from his manager, from teammates, because he was exposed, time and time again. It was evident really early, and that was why, even though when Newcastle had that 1-0 lead, that 2-1 lead, you never looked at it and thought, this is comfortable, this is convincing, because you knew Luton had that threat, and they were using it, and fair play to them to score 4 goals here. Like I say, I thought they had a game plan. I thought they executed it well, and I thought Ross Barkley in the middle of the pitch was, the best midfielder and the game's best player too. Now, I suppose the positive for Newcastle is, if that had been 2-3 weeks ago, or if that had been, the Boxing Day game against Nottingham Forest, Newcastle would have lost that. They wouldn't have had the options to come off the bench and change things. So if you're looking at a positive, they found themselves 4-2 down with half an hour to go, and they've come back to get it to 4-4 now. The disappointment, I think, is when they got it to 4-4, I honestly think, I don't know what you guys are interested in, know your thoughts below the line. I thought the atmosphere was quite flat for a 4-4, such a chaotic game, such an entertaining game. It didn't really seem to have that same belief in the stands, or that frenzy, really. I don't know, the atmosphere almost mirrored the team. When it got to 4-4, you didn't really think that Newcastle were then going to go on and win it, really. If anything, there was a spell there where you thought Newcastle could potentially do with a full-time whistle during the 10 added minutes. I'd love to see the possession stats. I actually think Luton probably had more of the ball during that period. So yeah, the atmosphere didn't, at times, for me, reflect a 4-4 game at home, when Newcastle have fought their way back from 2 goals down, even though, of course, on the 4th goal there's a lot of noise. And I do think, that is and he's just said that to us there, he agreed with the suggestion that 2 or 3 weeks ago they might have lost that game. I thought when Harvey Barnes came on and Callum Wilson through the middle, all of a sudden the team looked like more of a team, just more structure to it, and keeping those two fit now. And we've just spoken to both players after the game there, keeping those two fit between now and the end of the season. That is a big ask with Callum Wilson, especially given Isak's out, and we've seen, they need each other fit to be fit, almost. When they were at their best from that run January onwards last year, they rotated. They need each other to play well. They need each other to stay fit. When it falls on one of them, they end up getting injured, as we've seen with Isak. Isak plays a run of games, he gets injured. Wilson comes in, plays a run of games, he gets injured, and that's how it's been this season. And that would be the fear again, because Callum Wilson's probably going to have to go for the next. Going to go for the next 2 or 3 now. On Barnes, slightly different. He's a player who hasn't missed any football almost his entire career. I think he's had 1 injury. He's come here, and within 6 games he's spent 4 months out. But I thought he was good. The way he took his goal on his weaker foot as well. Now we're bouncing around the positives and negatives here, and we're back to the subject of injuries. Anthony Gordon has just left down below there, out of the tunnel. He was wearing a moon boot and on crutches. Now, when we asked Eddie, he said that he twisted his ankle in the first half. He was in a lot of pain at half time, but he said, quote, he had no idea how severe the injury was. That is one we'll probably get more news on Monday. The update on Alexander Isak is that, yes, he has a slight groin problem. They still don't know the exact time frame, but they're hopeful he will be back soon, is what Eddie Howe said. Now, the merit stars, I'm going to do this in ascending order this time, on the back of a suggestion from one viewer. In the 1 star, well, that goes to Harvey Barnes. I just thought to come on and to score that goal after 4 months out, and to give the team, to restore that natural balance. I thought he was worthy of the 1 star, because I think without Harvey Barnes coming on, I honestly don't think Newcastle perhaps don't get a point from that game. Barnes gets the 1 star. 2 stars now. this is controversial even in my own mind to a degree. 2 stars goes to Sean Longstaff, because I thought, you know, he scored 2 goals. You can't deny that. They're 2 great finishes. He's put himself in those positions, as he did down at Fulham last weekend as well. So Sean gets the 2 stars, but I did think he faded from the game, and I thought him and Louis Miley, that performance almost mirrored each other to a degree, whereby they've started well. Miley's had a part in the first goal. It's a lovely switch of play out to Kieran Trippier. I thought he did a lot of good, Miley, but I also thought he did some not so good as well, where he's given the ball away, or he's looked a little bit leggy at times. So yeah, Longstaff and Miley faded, and like I said, they're part of a midfield that didn't have any real control for me. On that, Bruno as well, you know, I've spoken about those 2. Bruno, I didn't think had a great game, but then for a 15-20 minute spell in the second half, donned his superhero cape, as he always does when his team needs him, shooting downhill towards the Gallagate. You know, he is that sort of situational type player, and it was no surprise to see him do that for that period. But overall, I thought they needed perhaps more from him in offering, coming back to that word again, control. But yeah, I think for the 2 goals, Sean Longstaff gets the 2 stars, in part because there's a great deal of competition for that. You couldn't give it to the 2 centre halves who weren't great. Dan Burns had a torrid afternoon. Martin Dubravka's conceded 4 goals. We've mentioned the 3 midfielders. Miguel Almiron was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of nothing at times. Wilson, I thought, did well when he came on, but Barnes was perhaps the more impactful substitute, and Gordon's gone off at half time. So that leaves that process of elimination. The 3 stars, I think, has got to go to Kieran Trippier, even though he's part of that defence that's conceded 4 goals. I thought he had a good game. He's laid on the first goal. He's then popped up the back post for the third. I thought Trippier was good without being outstanding, and that, you know, almost captures the Newcastle performance to a degree, because Eddie actually used that phrase himself. You know, lots of good and lots of bad, and I'd probably go along with that, even if I would side, as I said at the very top of the video, more bad than good, and more reasons to be concerned for Newcastle than encouraged. And that is because, and it was the question asked of Eddie, you know, how do you go from Tuesday as a coach? Can you explain how you go from a performance like Tuesday, where we heralded it as one of the best of the entire season, to then a performance like that was so chaotic and I keep on saying the same words, lacked control? And Eddie's answer was, just to give you the insight, he said, well, you know, you can't compare two games are very different situations. So in a way, he didn't really answer my question, but I get the point he's making. And it was a different challenge today. You know, there was more pressure, there was more expectation on Newcastle, and while they started well and they got themselves in winning positions twice, ultimately it was never really convincing. And I think they've in the end they've probably done well to, you would even go as far to say, escape with a point. Well, I hope I've just about made sense of that. I feel as if I've bounced around the subject, to be honest with you. Maybe my reflections have merely added to the chaos, but no, just in summary, I just think it was a really sloppy afternoon for Newcastle, and one that, even though they're twice in winning positions, I thought that was evident throughout. Really, while Tuesday night had a really good vibe, there was just a bad vibe about that from the start with Newcastle. I've tried to put my finger on it during this video, no idea if I've been successful or not. But anyway, thank you again for watching, guys. I'll put some links in the description below. I'll be writing about this game for Monday's Daily Mail. Like I say, we've had a conversation with Harvey Barnes and Callum Wilson down there. We'll bring you more on that across all mail platforms. Some really interesting stuff to come from that. So yeah, guys, stay logged on, keep on watching. I'll be back at the end of the week ahead of the trip down to Forest, a game I'm all booked up for too. So yeah, take care, and again, please hit like, comment. Lots of debate, I think, after this one. I'm really interested to get your thoughts, because I'm still trying to formalise in my own mind what I actually really think. So yeah, put those thoughts below the line. It might help influence what I write in Monday's paper. So okay, take care, guys. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.